Welcome everyone. This is Dave Meyer with BizzyWeb, and once a month we're now doing something a little bit differently on our Busy webinars. It's called the BuzzCast, and so as part of our BuzzCast, we're going to be talking to luminaries in the digital marketing field, and I know of no one better in the web design field than our own head or our heads of our marketing and web design group, Andy and Jessica. So I'd like to do a brief intro. Andy, say hi.
Hello.
Hey. So, and Jessica?
Hello.
Andy is our lead developer, and Jessica is our project manager and graphic design queen at BizzyWeb. And so we're going to talk a lot about web design, what it is, what it means, and how you can make sure that your website is actually doing what you want it to do. So would love to have your comments, questions, and thoughts as you go into this. If you'd like, you can just give us a tweet with the hashtag #BusyWebinar, or you can also try BuzzCast. Or of course, you can always send a note to us at either dave@BizzyWeb.com or hello, also works as well. So without further ado, I'd like to get started, and I'm just going to share a couple of things because I want to set the stage. So Jess and Andy are going to hang on with me, but I'm going to set the stage for what we're talking about today and give us just a few slides. And this is going to take about 5 minutes worth of our time, maybe 10. But then after that, we are going to go into a round robin, and we're going to talk about some things and what matters most. So let's do that. And I will go ahead and present to everyone for now, and then I'll stop presenting in a moment. This is what we're talking about with the BuzzCast. So of course, with our BuzzCast today, again, new format, and it's intended as a discussion. So this is going to be back and forth, and you're going to hear us talk. Again, we already introduced ourselves, but we have myself, Jessica, our creative director, and Andy, our director of development, with us on the line today. Between the three of us, we have more years than we ought to in this field, and it's just super exciting to have you guys with us and to have you help. Why do we know what we're doing here? Well, we've created hundreds of websites. Here's a few examples, but we're really proud of the work that we do, and we do focus on WordPress-based websites. So as we converse today, think about that through that lens. This is the tool that we use. It happens to be the most popular publishing platform on the web, so we think that it's a really good option. But as you're thinking about this, that's our lens. So if you have a Joomla website, or if you're using Squarespace or Wix, your mileage may vary on some of the tips that we're going to offer today, but know that the basics that we're going to cover today absolutely apply to all websites. What we're going to talk through very briefly here is what's a website, is social media enough, some basics about what every website needs. We're going to go through some performance tips, how to keep your site relevant, and then free discussion. I do want to leave this open. Jess and Andy, if you want to offer your thoughts live as I'm talking, would love to have your conversation and your comments as well. So as we go through this then, what is a website? Well, of course, your website is the foundation of everything that you do in your marketing. So the way BizzyWeb especially builds our websites, when you post something on your website automatically posts to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Google Plus for those folks that are still hanging on to that, and much, much more. It's the one tool where no matter what people or where people find you, they are going to look for you on your website next. So if you have a fantastic bevy of marketing that's out there and driving all kinds of traffic, and you have a terrible website, what you're doing is accelerating the process of people wondering what in the heck you're doing. Everything needs to be the same consistency, and it all needs to be good, but the website is absolutely the foundation of all of that. Andy, Jess, any thoughts on what you've seen in the past, or just tips on how to make that consistent?
Well, I think I'm going to speak, and Jess can kind of piggyback off from this, but a consistent brand look and feel across all platforms really drives the message that you're trying to get across, and also drives hopefully to your customer base as needed.
Yeah. And I would also say that, The website also it's a launch pad for all your other marketing, and it integrates with everything, but it's also for your users and your specific users and where they're at. So it's a great way to integrate where they're at with where you want them to go as well.
Cool. Yeah. And one of the big things inside of that is it needs to look great on any device. So if your website isn't mobile responsive, and we'll cover that in a couple of minutes, but if your website doesn't look as good on a phone as it does on a computer, you're missing out on traffic, and Google is actively downgrading you for your search engine results. So we'll talk about that in a moment. Next up, social media does not equal your website. Only 57% of small business owners report having a unique website. And that's a tragedy, because if they are relying on Facebook, for example, to carry the brand of their business and to carry their business forward, there's a lot of things that they're giving up. So your website is the only channel that you absolutely own. Facebook changes their look and feel, their priorities, and the content that you can even share on a semi-regular basis. So unless you're comfortable just handing the keys over to someone who has your interests at like number 1,000 in their top 10 list of priorities, you need to make sure that you own your website, and that's the channel that you own. Now, social networks are absolutely handy, but on Facebook, you're not the customer. Advertisers are the customer. So think about that, and think about the kind of leverage or help people offer. It's really based around what Facebook wants or what LinkedIn wants, not what you as business owner need. So no matter where people find you, I covered this before, but they're going to research you on the web, and having that base is really, really important. Andy and Jess, anything to add in about either content or the ways that you've seen some of our clients smarten up about what they need to do?
Yeah, I like to think of social media as more like kind of like sprinkles on a cupcake, right? Your website is your cupcake, and that's where all of your meat is. That's where everything is held. But the social media is really just kind of your sprinkling out in the world, where you're going to get in touch with people, but ultimately you need to get them back to your website so that they can really get to know you and get to understand your business and what you can do for them. And just having that having social media is great, but it isn't a website. It's just kind of those little sprinkles that you put out there.
I love that, Jess. Actually, we should come up with the book, Social Media Sprinkles. Focus on the donut, right?
I agree with Jessica. I think the key is that social media gets people interested. It's just the taste on the top of who you are as a company and what you can provide for your customer base. It won't drive the sales. It won't drive the leads. It won't drive whatever your main goal is for your company, but it'll get them interested in coming to find out more and coming in. So I really like the sprinkles analogy as well, Jess.
Thank you.
Excellent. So what does your website absolutely need to have? And I really want to lean on Jess and Andy on this, but for sure, what you need to have on every page of your website, first, of course, you should have your own URL. Ideally, that URL should be a .com if you want to be taken seriously. Avoid any tricks like dashes or cutesy spellings or any of that stuff if you can at all avoid it. And make sure that your website is easy to find. So your website should have a clear focus on how you meet your customers' needs. A lot of our clients get caught up in this, and they try to talk about how many years they've been in business, or they have a kitten named Mittens, and so Mittens needs to be on the homepage. Nobody cares about you. What they care about is what you can do for them. And so that's what we always try to coach our clients on, and that's what you need to focus on if you want to get right to the point. People are really searching your website in a more and more fractured and quicker fashion than ever before. So if you're not getting right to the pain point that you can solve for your customers, you're missing that. Of course, you also need to have contact information. You need to have fantastic calls to action or tell people what to do next. And of course, you need to also optimize to get found. But what are the other basics that every website needs, Andy, Jess?
Well, I think the clear calls to action and the optimization are key. Optimization isn't going to always be what it is currently, and I think that's going to continue to improve, especially as we see the machine learning coming out of some of the bigger search engines like Google and Bing, where they start customizing the searches not necessarily on the keywords, but on what the user has searched for before and what they like. So really optimizing it for those niches that your customer is consistently looking for, and information that they consistently consume will continue to grow more and more.
Cool.
Yeah, and I would also say for, bare bones, it really is a matter of being not only clearly focused on what you want to say, but also speaking really plainly to your customers as well. Because getting caught up in jargon and other, words that really don't mean anything to your customer base is a big no-no. So really, the bare bones needs to be written in a way that speaks to them in a conversational tone and uses just plain speaking, as well as balances that with a lot of images, because as we know through research, imagery is what draws people in. If you have really crappy images, you're going to not get people to click on things for you. You have to have great images that really support your content and get that message across. And being simple as well. You don't have to have 18 scrolls down to get to the point. You just need to get to the point right away and have very simple, clear messaging.
I agree. And I think, social media, if our sprinkles have taught us anything, it's that people enjoy conversational style versus being spoke to like a CEO talking down to people. So really making that relational connection with your people. And then as we continue down a societal road of reading less and less, that we would actually, as Jess said, use video, use images, use other visual means to get the points across.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So another thing that your website absolutely needs to do is look good, right? Or it needs to perform well. If you're on a website, especially if you're browsing from a mobile device that might not be on Wi-Fi or it might be on a slow 3G network, you need to optimize to make sure that your website is as fast as possible. I'm going to defer to the expert here on this one, Andy. What are some common tips and tricks that people can think of in order to make sure that their website is served correctly, and why is it so important?
Well, it's really important because, number one, the search engines want it that way. So if you want to be found, the search engines are actually relying more and more on faster websites. They're giving you a ranking against that. A couple different ways to look at optimization, as are listed here, are image sizes. Optimize those down. There are different services that'll do that for you. You can find different software tools, both online and as desktop applications that'll help you with that. As well, you can get something called a content delivery network. There's a bunch of them out there. Cloudflare is a very popular one. You can use Amazon or Google. They've got content delivery networks. And what this does is it takes your biggest content, your images, your videos, and puts it out on a diversified network where they've probably got more bandwidth than a standard host does, and it's sitting on multiple different locations around the world so that that image and those videos can actually be delivered to you quicker when you load up the web page or the different sites. Those are probably the two biggest items that I would recommend. It's very important to also start looking at quick responding pages, at pages that are using semantic languages so that Google, Bing, Yahoo all know how to pick up the content in the site faster, and they know how to index it better.
Cool. Yeah, how important is just straight up hosting in speed?
Well, hosting is very important. Thanks for giving me that little insight there, Dave. As with BizzyWeb hosting, we optimize for the types of sites that we are hosting. In our case, WordPress sites. So we've got the databases optimized for WordPress. We've got the server itself actually set up to run WordPress very quickly. You need to pick a hosting provider that matches your environment and what you're actually building your website for. So if you have a Joomla site, for example, you want a Joomla expert. They know about Joomla, they know how to optimize for Joomla. You want to optimize, and also you want to make sure there's not too many sites on the same server as you. If you get one site that's a huge site and bringing in 5 million people a day, that may actually slow down the server overall and thus slow down your site. So you want to make sure you pick a hosting environment that is either a virtual private host or one that doesn't have too many sites per server.
I guess that belies my next question. Are there any things that you know, or watchwords, or things that just scream danger when you're looking at hosting, or just things to stay away from?
I would say anything that you pay less than $5 a month for, you're probably going onto a server that has a lot of other sites on it, and I would be cautious about it. As a general rule, you do get what you pay for. The higher the price, generally the more optimized, the more people you've got watching your server, maintaining your server, watching out for viruses, denial of service attacks, all of that. That's one thing that BizzyWeb's hosting especially is slightly different, is most of the hosting providers out there ensure that your server will stay up. It doesn't ensure the speed, it doesn't ensure anything else, it ensures that the server will stay up. Our hosting is different in the fact that we promise that your site will stay up, it'll be optimized, we will monitor it for malware and viruses and everything else. So that's kind of a difference in our hosting. When you're out there shopping, make sure that whoever you're shopping, whether it's with us or somebody else, that they actually care about your website and not just the hardware that it sits on.
Awesome. So next up, wanted to talk a little bit about content. And so, Jess, as you talk through this and how strategy fits in, wanted to just kind of bring this up. But a website that hasn't been updated in several months or maybe even years doesn't speak very well to the utility of that website. Search engine optimization, what Google, Bing, Yahoo, and all those look for is a website that's been recently updated and that has relevant and interesting content. So I guess some thoughts from the team here on what makes great content, what's relevant, and how do you go for a good mix between spending your entire life trying to take care of your website and having something that's worth your time.
Right. Well, general content overall, not talking necessarily about blogs or news, but in general, you always want to make sure that your content is written, again, for the user. They're the ones who are coming to your site. They're the ones who are looking for the information. So you want to make sure that it's relevant to what they need and how you can solve their problems. And also just refreshing that at least on an annual basis to make sure that it's kept up to date, kept up with trends and things like that. Going then into the news and the blog type of thing, those need to be, again, relevant to your users, and then that also then leads into the rest of your site. So you want to make sure that whatever you're putting on there is going to be updated, it's relevant, it's on trend with what's happening in your industry. You just want to make sure that it's always good news. I know when I'm searching for something, I will almost always, if I'm looking for something specific, go to the tool in Google that says search within the past month or the year or whatever, because I want to make sure that whatever I'm looking for is going to be up to date for what I need. And if somebody's blog is outdated by 3 years, you're not going to find that information at all.
Cool.
I would concur with that. And Dave, to kind of piggyback on your question on how do you balance that work website, and level set, I think that a blog a week, finding industry news that fits with what your customers are looking for. So for example, if you are a printing company, you don't want to put up the latest news perhaps on the auto industry. It's not going to drive your right customer base. However, If you are a printing company and there's a new type of ink that's out there on the market by one of your vendors, write about that and talk about that. Reach out to the ink provider and see if you guys can cross-link back and forth and talk about that. The other thing is that balance. If you've got the time to set aside, maybe once a month, that you can write up 3 to 5 blog posts or news articles and then set them so that they publish out on your website every week or every week and a half, that gives you the time then to only have to visit the site and update the content potentially once a month. Now with WordPress, you can easily do that. Some of the other tools out there, you need modules and add-ons to do that, depending on your content management system. But that's an easy way that you can set aside 3-4 hours, get content ready to go, get it written up, and then just, for lack of a better term, set it and forget it, and it'll auto-publish as needed.
And you brought up something really interesting there that a lot of our clients don't understand when we first start working with them. Curation of content or finding content that's useful from other sources is absolutely valid as a method of delivering interesting and helpful and relevant content. The difference between curation and plagiarism is that curation is taking small snippets of information, linking to the original source, and providing your input. It's what I like to call the Oreo post philosophy, right? So you set up a premise, the creamy filling of the post is the paragraph or maybe 2 that you found elsewhere on the web, and then the other side of that cookie is what you think about it or what to do next. So providing the context of curated content and then linking back to the original source is how to do that well.
Yeah.
All these sweet food analogies are making me hungry, especially around lunchtime.
Right, we shouldn't do this around lunchtime.
Right. Another tip that is a recent one that we've kind of looked at and found was a really interesting thing for content is when you have users out there and they have a RSS feed of all kinds of stuff, if you're using Feedly or whatever to kind of, aggregate your news, it takes a lot of time to read through a lot of stuff. So one thing that we found that is kind of helpful in a lot of respects is if you put a reading time up at the top of your article as well, that helps your users know how long it's going to take them to really go through that article. It could be really, really long, but it might only take them 2 minutes to read it because there's a lot of images scattered throughout or whatever. So just kind of adding in some useful things for your users to know as well. If they're looking for something specific, I can read through this whole article because it's only going to take me 5 minutes to read it versus something that may take 30 minutes.
Right. I love that. So let's get done with the presentation part because I want to see everybody's faces again, and I'm sure that staring at a screen isn't all that exciting. So in general, and then I'm going to open this up and stop screen sharing so that we can finish our conversation. But think of your website as the foundation of everything else that you do. You wouldn't build a house on sticks and mud. You need to put together something that will serve you for a long, long time. Using a tool, a content management system like WordPress is essential, I think, for making sure that your business communication, that your digital marketing structure is going to be set for the near-term future and be able to apply and adjust to all of the new things that are coming. Search engine optimization, the art of getting you found, is incredibly important. And you don't have to bury yourself or spend hours on it a week, but you do have to do something on a regular basis. Always focus on your customer, of course, and just make sure that you're always offering value. And then one thing that we constantly seem to bring our customers back to is the need for calls to action. If you just have content out on your website, but you don't tell people what to do next, that's a wasted opportunity to get people to the next step. So I'm going to stop screen sharing for a moment then, and then we'll finish this out in a few minutes with just one final go round. But let's what else do you wish everyone could know when they were thinking about websites, or as the experts in the field, what should business owners think about and consider when they're thinking about websites?
Well, I think one thing to consider, and that we strive to relay when we're doing projects here too, is that a website is never going to be perfect, and that you should never expect it to be perfect once it's launched.
Right.
The best way to go about a website really is to figure out what is the most important information you need to get out there. Make sure you're driving action for your users, getting them to do something, and then improve upon that. And never expect that it's always going to be perfect as soon as you launch it. One thing I think a lot of customers get worried about or get scared of is that if they don't have everything out there right away, how on earth are we going to be able to do anything with it? So it's a matter of really just kind of focusing on little steps and getting things done that makes sense and do it right, and then add on that so that your customers are consistently getting more value out of you. If you give them everything at once, then you have nothing else to give them later on. So making sure that we continuously improve upon that website that we start out with.
And I think to kind of piggyback on that is using data and analytics, no matter what your analytics tool is, but really using data on how customers are interacting with the site and what they want to get out of the site. How are they moving through the site? Are they going to your call to action? Are they doing what you need them to do? And then using that data to test and retest and retest until you get them to do what you need them to do on the site.
Right. And two, the nice thing about using those analytics is we get to know that maybe what we thought was the most important thing really isn't the most important thing for the users. So if we find that, we're putting this one page out here that has all this great information that we want them to get and see, but they're going to a totally different page every time, then we realize that the users are really finding that other page more valuable to them. So being able to then refocus efforts is a good way to continue to improve the website more, but based on those data and the analytics that we're using.
I love that. Anything that people should keep their eyes on in near future? Any trends that we're seeing that are making things interesting for us? I know that we've been talking about the trends toward more continual improvement on sites, and the fact, when we just talked about analytics, actually using analytics as a baseline for improvement is one of the things that we're seeing our customers ask for more and more often.
Well, I think
so. Anything else in crystal ball land?
I think one that you're going to see more of, and it's not going to be important for every industry, but it is the 360 video is really starting to take its own, especially this past holiday season. You saw the VR players for phones, and that dropped to about $16. Walkthroughs for offices, maybe the About Us pages, that kind of stuff, to get a different interaction with your customer, I think will continue to grow. It's a good way to reach out to your customers as well, especially on Facebook that uses the 3D video and that now. And the cameras are dropping in price pretty quickly as well. So you can get into it relatively cheap, under sub $500, and you can start actually shooting and producing. And I think that's going to be an interesting crystal ball, looking forward to see how this continues to evolve.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I also think, kind of piggybacking on that, is just a lot more interaction with the users overall. Yeah. So not just, them clicking from page to page, but also having them do different things on that page to get continuous interaction with them. With mobile apps and whatnot, they always talk about all the micro interactions that you do to get from page to page, whether it's swiping or clicking on a button or whatever. Moving that into websites is going to be a big trend coming up as well, is getting those more interactive elements built into the website, whether it's through video or animations and things like that.
Yeah. I think one other one that we're probably going to see more of is the niche social media environments. So that getting away from the big Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and really focusing on some of the niche sites. And I'm just going to quick screen share here Just some of them that I've come across recently, real quick here. So, you know, this one, Third Age, this is geared towards baby boomers and where they are and what they're doing. Active Rain, this is a social media for real estate agents and for brokers. The Nickelodeon Parents site, obviously geared towards parents with small children. Flickster is about movies. So all of these are different ways. Nextdoor is a private social network for your neighborhood. Cafe Mom is one on parenting and lifestyles. Getting involved in some of these different social media environments. Here's one, Ravelry. It's for those that knit and crochet. Jessica, I think that you're the founding member of this site? Classmates. So all of these are just different ways to have those micro interactions with people of the same interest or customers that you might be reaching out to.
And I think that belies that the more you can provide an immersive experience into what your customers are expecting, the better you're going to be. Yes. And so, you know, whether it's a 360 video, and 360 videos are dead simple. All you need to do is shoot a panoramic shot and put it on Facebook, and you can embed it back on your website. That stuff is incredibly interesting and sometimes novel. It is important not to get too caught up in the novelty and forsake the utility of any business communication or any marketing, but you do need to be interesting, because that's part of the three-legged stool, right? When you're doing marketing, you have three goals. You want to engage, you want to inform, and you want to convert. And so engaging people, capturing their attention, making sure that they have something that directly applies to them when they visit your website is really important. Once they get that, once you capture their attention, you need to prove that there's some depth there. So providing a narrative and a way for people to get what they're interested in and what they're looking for is a lot of times what makes it a marketing tool versus just a brochure or something that's just out there. And for our clients that seem to have trouble getting traction with their clients, a lot of times it's simply just that they're focusing too much on themselves and not nearly enough on making small asks with calls to action to convert. So if you're going to be interesting, if you're going to put all that time and effort into building a cool website, making sure that you're giving people small hurdles to leap over. Maybe it's just fill out a form. Maybe it's subscribe to my newsletter. Maybe it's download a white paper. After people start doing the things that you're asking them to do, that gives you intelligence that you can use to further connect with them. So, for example, in an ideal world, your website has an eye-catching or attention-grabbing bit to it that asks people to fill out a quick survey or a form in exchange for, say, a white paper or a exclusive video. Once people download that and they use it, then you know who they are and that they're interested in that particular piece of content. And so you can use your email marketing tool to use an autoresponder campaign to connect with them further. So they visit the site, they download the white paper, they automatically get more details and an invitation to an in-person event that's going to make them much more likely to want to do business with you or to take the next step. So thinking about websites as static things that you update every few years is really dead and buried. The fact that it needs to be always on, always interesting, and continually encouraging people to jump on and to connect with you is where marketing is going.
Yeah, and I would say too, just making small improvements. I think people get overwhelmed with having to think about, oh my gosh, I have to update my entire website. And you don't. You just need to make small improvements and do it a little at a time, and that works great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Parting shots and advice?
Have fun with your digital marketing. If you're having fun, your customers will notice.
Yes.
Cool. And use more sprinkles.
And use more sprinkles.
Sprinkles are great.
Awesome. Well, I want to wrap this up with just a quick thing here and invite people to stay on board with us here. So quickly, please do keep in touch if you're finding us here today. We would love to have you stay in touch with us if you would like to get a invite to the next event that we have, as well as handy tips and tricks and information that you can use to continue to grow your marketing. Go to 22828 on your cell phone and text BIZZY, B-I-Z-Z-Y, and make sure you don't get caught up in spell check or autocorrect. But if you send a text to 22828 that says BIZZY, next time we send out something, which is about once a week, you'll get handy access to tips and tricks and updates on what's going on, including event invites to things like the BuzzCast. Here's how to get a hold of me. I do want to leave you with one last call to action because we very much eat our own dog food. If you want to get a hold of me to ask for this deck or more details, send me a note at dave@BizzyWeb.com. You can call us at 612-4BizzyO, or to grab a buzz report to have us look at your website and give you some real world tips on how to improve the search engine findability of your website, but also just to kind of give you an overview. Is your website mobile responsive? What are some challenges that it looks like you have? I've not ever had a buzz report that's not identified something that a client could take to the next level or to use to fix. So go to BizzyWeb.com/buzz. All you need to do is fill out your name, a keyword that you'd like to be found for, and your website address. And once you do that, you'll immediately, within about 45 seconds actually, get a 10-page report, including a couple pages of handy checklist that you can bring to your website administrator, or just start taking on yourself to improve your results. On behalf of myself, Andy, and Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today. Jess and Andy, thank you very much for adding to this conversation. And until next time, remember, at BizzyWeb, we help you generate buzz without getting stung. Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.